There's a lot of news to get to today on the show. Not all of it good. In fact, some of it, just say it's bad. It's opposite good. It's not good, however you want to say it. We're taking a look at recruiting today on the BWI Daily Edition. I'm your host, Frank Carr. Dip into recruiting, give you film analysis. Normally, I'm looking at film of the team, but, it's recruiting season, so where there's film and there's football, that's where I find myself. So we're taking a look at the class of 2023 today with a lot of news coming up over the last couple of days. So I'm just going to start this. I'm going to say it a bunch of times on the show today because there's so much news, and I'm not the news guy, as I just said. BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Sign up for just $1. Get access to all of this information, 12 months of access. But you get all of the access to all the information right now for just $1, and you pay $1 for the next year. So as things happen in June and July, heading into August, as recruiting heats up, if you've never been on the inside of this machine before, it comes at you fast. There's a lot of things, a lot of names to keep straight. Ryan Snyder, Greg Pickle, they do a great job of that. A couple things coming out of the weekend that I'll start off with before we get to the news of the day. Penn State had their Elite Showcase Camp number 2. That was hundreds of players coming to Penn State, getting testing done, going through drills, getting coaching, getting feedback, things like that from the Penn State staff and some other coaches. So offers go out after that. We're tracking down those players to get comments and reaction from them. The names and all that stuff, again, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Sign up for $1, get 12 months of access. So that is all happening as I'm recording right now. Things that have happened this afternoon that are big news. Penn State, let's start with the bad, then we'll get to the good. Penn State has lost a player in the class of 2023, something that Blue White Illustrated was tracking over the weekend, and has confirmed this afternoon that Joshua Miller, 3-star offensive lineman in this cycle, decommitted from the Nittany Lions, and he is choosing a college football playoff team, another Power 5 school, obviously, a college football playoff team, decommitting from the Nittany Lions, committing to Georgia. Went down to camp at Georgia, do some of the same things that are happening up at Penn State. Ultimately made the decision that he's flipping from Penn State to go with the Georgia Bulldogs. Some comments here. These are not facts. These are just my observations. Talked to Joshua Miller here on the show this winter about his game, what he views as, his strengths and weaknesses, why he initially chose Penn State. And one of the things that stuck with me was I just asked him, we have you as an interior player. That's what the conversation has been about with you. Is that how you see yourself, or where do you think you can play? And he gave the answer of, I'll go wherever they want me to. I'll be a good soldier and all that stuff. But I got the sense that he wants to be a tackle. He wants to play on the edge of the pocket. That's where he plays in high school. And he talked about ways he was getting better to play in space and play against speed. He looks like a Georgia tackle. He looks like a guy that they would play on the perimeter because they love that inside zone. They love to mash people on the inside and with that running game. Just like for Penn State, he can play inside or outside, and we're going to see how that goes over the next couple of years. But he is a big personality. He was a great interview. I enjoyed having him. Best of luck to him at Georgia. We'll see how all of that plays out. But Penn State loses a guy in the class of 2023 in Joshua Miller. But some good news here on the offense still. Penn State lands a commitment. They didn't directly flip him from Rutgers, but Yazeed Haynes from North Penn High School, previously Newman Goretti in Philadelphia. He has chosen the Nittany Lions shortly after what you see here at the Whiteout Camp, where he was the star of the day, going through drills, playing with Marcus Stokes, the quarterback commit in the class of 23. He is as you can tell, he is a deep threat and a burner as a receiver. 6'1", 170 pounds. His full film evaluation is going to come later at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, so make sure you check that out. Again, another reason to go check out the site for $1 for premium content. He is a deep threat specialist. That is what he absolutely verified is right now. But, as you'll find out later, and I'll just rip the Band-Aid off, there's not a lot of full game tape to know all of his strengths and weaknesses. So that's something we're going to see going forward. But 6'1", deep threat, he always is accelerating. I feel like it's not just that when he's level with guys, it's that when he's level with guys, he's accelerating past them. Not an even you're leaving sort of thing, like 2-3 yards ahead of these guys once he gets even with them. So that's a special skill. But when it comes to his overall physical ability, this is coming shortly after Rodney Gallagher commits to West Virginia. Penn State's able to find Yazeed Haynes, bring him to camp. He ran a 4.39 at the camp. And his testing numbers, they're not just good. They are NFL level good. I was checking some of these numbers out. He would have been tied for 6th in the broad jump at the combine. That's how good he was. 4.39, that's a top number at the NFL Combine this year, even if their numbers were all off. But anyway, he's an elite athlete with that size and those skills. The rest of his profile, we'll check out what we know over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com later. So Penn State filling out that receiver position. So they got 2 in this class, 2 tight ends, and that's going to bring us to what we're going to do for the rest of the show. We're going to take a look at the class of 2023. The players Penn State needs to land that are commits, that are prospects, that they need to get to become commits. And we're going to start on the offensive line. Makes sense, seeing as Josh Miller just decommitted. We're going to take a look at the offense. Now, because of Yazeed Haynes, most of this class is set now. Quarterback is set. Tight end is set. Receiver is set. Running back, you have London Montgomery here. I did a mock class earlier this past weekend, Friday, Saturday. You can check that out at the site. My guy in this class between the two obvious top prospects is London Montgomery. I think he's the guy that has the better overall talent. I think he fits the offense very well. And then we go to the offensive line. This would have not been, there'd have been really just Montgomery and one of these names at offensive tackle on the list. But because Josh Miller decommitted, they've got a situation now. I've wanted Javen Williams to play on the tackle for this group for a while. He is not a polished pass protector because of his offense in high school. He's still learning that process. But the athleticism there, the growth potential, he could be a complete tackle. But that's now one. Anthony Donko, he, I think, early was a tackle prospect because of his athleticism, his size, his physical stature. But he's got to grow into the position from a fundamental standpoint. Right now, he's a guard. So you can hope that he hits, but you really want to get 2 exterior players in this class. And that comes down to those 2 names. I'll throw this up here again. These 2 names on the list are the ones they have to get. They have to get either Evan Link or Samson Okunlola. Evan Link right now is the most realistic one. He took his official visit to Penn State this past weekend. Will he commit ever to the Nittany Lions? He's got a couple more official visits coming up. I don't know, but he is the most realistic of these 2. Samson Okunlola is a 5-star prospect. He would be the jewel of this class. But Evan Link is a good prospect. He's a tackle prospect, and that gives you that flexibility back in this class with Evan Link and Javen Williams, where you don't have to then play somebody out of position. You don't have to force it. You have the versatility of 2 players that have that length on the exterior, and it's not like Evan Link is so much bigger or longer than Javen Williams, but he's just past all the thresholds. 6'5", great arm length, great movement skills. I think he's on his toes a little too much as an offensive lineman, but he's got great movement skills. So those guys are tackle prospects, and that then allows you to be flexible with Javen Williams and also on the interior, Alex Birchmeier, and keep Anthony Donko inside until he proves that he can play on the exterior. But they've got to get... if they want to get back to where they were in this class, I think they have to get Okunlola. He is a difference-making power player, speed. He's everything. He's all of the things you're looking for at the offensive line with the length, the athleticism. There's a reason he's a 5-star prospect. There are no questions whether he's a tackle. There's no questions whether or not he's an elite athlete or he's got technique for the position. And that one's a long shot. But if to me there's a player they can land in this class to really set the offensive side over the top, and maybe he's the best player that Penn State has any shot with, I think that's true. I think at least with the relationship there seems to be some positive energy. Not that I'm saying it's gonna happen, but it is one of those areas where maybe it could happen. I think they've got to get him for that to be kind of that elite level class. Now, I'm out on a limb here, even bringing his name up for the most part. With some of my colleagues, they're not really something they're looking at. So let's go over to the defensive side because there's some really interesting names over here because There's more positions that don't have any athletes yet. And that's kind of the basis of the offense, and that's going to be the basis of the defense is, do you have a guy at a position? And if not, you need to get one. You need to get one of your targets. So that's going to push some of these positions up the board. And if there's one position that they need to land, one of their top prospects, it would be linebacker with Tony Rojas. It seems as if right now they have staved off the Clemson pursuit of Rojas. We talked about this on Friday on the BWI Daily Edition with Ryan Snyder, that it seems like Penn State's still in a great position. Okay, you're in a great position. Now land the player. You got to land the plane. And then Tamir Robinson, he's down the list here as you see the other linebacker. Both are very important, but with Rojas being where he is in that sort of relationship category, that's where that goes. A couple other names on this list. Jason Moore, he's a very highly ranked prospect. He's very interested in Notre Dame. That's going to be the tough part, is do you get an opportunity with Jason Moore? He was here for his official visit, so did that help? Did it work out? I don't know that. And the last name on this list once was committed to Penn State, Neo Avery. He was once a defensive end in this class, decommitted. He was once a tight end in this class as well, by the way. So long history there. Very rarely do players decommit from a class and then recommit, but Matthias Barnwell is in this class and did that at defensive tackle, which is why we don't have Jason Moore higher on the list, is because they've got a guy who's 6'5", extreme length, great growth potential, can be that guy. Jason Moore, highly ranked prospect. That's why he's lower on the list despite being a great player. Penn State, they have Jameel Lyons at defensive end, and then it's kind of an open book. The number 2 guy, that it's yet to be determined. So this is what we did last week during my mock classes, going through and looking at these guys. Neo Avery, I couldn't put him on the mock class because I couldn't have 2 players at the defensive line who both decommitted and then recommitted. That is just that's not been how it goes for recruiting. So that's why he's lower on the list. There's a couple other names thrown out there. You can check that out in the mock class at the website. But the other name I want to bring up here, the 2 names here in the middle, Dikari Nelson and Cam Selden. This is going to play into not just who's good and not just who's a high priority, but also why they are a priority. So let's start with Dikari Nelson, because to me, if you're looking at Penn State's new defense and the striker position, that linebacker that's a safety, but really he's a linebacker, that underneath field side linebacker that Manny Diaz is looking for, they've moved 2 safeties to that position. Dikari Nelson is a 6'3" safety with great range and just an awesome frame. You can see he plays corner in high school. So having that ability, having that size, and these physical skills to play in the slot, this is the final evolution of what that position can be. A big physical safety that runs well and covers man, zone, doesn't matter what your offense is or what your defense is doing, they can do it. So to me, that is, I think, he might be as big of a priority as some of the linebackers and some of the defensive linemen, because in the scheme, right now they're in transition. They don't have any of these body types on the roster, really. Jonathan Sutherland, 5'11", 205, he's moving down in that position. If you can have a guy that's 215, 220, that runs in the 4.4s, like these are those sort of freaky athletes, that's where you play them, is at that striker position. Especially if a guy has corner skills. So the same thing is true of Cam Selden, because he's got the same body type, 6'2", 220 pounds. The only reason he's not higher on the list is because he might end up being just a pure box linebacker. He's so big. And he is unnaturally fast. So Penn State has a couple of options there, but they need to stock that cupboard. That's my biggest opinion, is they need to stock the cupboard at that striker position, not of guys who are just good at the position, because there's a couple players that Penn State is in with, including King Mack from St. Thomas Aquinas, who would be, I think, would be very good in that striker position. They've got Tyrese Mills and KJ Winston, who could also be good at that position, but these are the kind of athletes you want there, not the guys that have the ability to play there, but guys that can flourish in that environment. That's why I've singled these 2 guys out, either one or both. If you could land both of them, I mean, then you would have the flexibility to play one of them at safety and one of them at that striker position. And 3 safeties, your amoeba defense can do whatever you want at that point with the ability to play underneath, deep, man, zone, doesn't matter. That's, I think, the goal should be when you're playing this defense is have so much versatility on the field that you, as the quarterback, are trying to read the defense, and any one of 4 players can play any of 3 positions. That's the uncertainty you can put into a quarterback. And that's hard. That's hard to replicate every year. That's hard to always have that level of talent. So that's why it's good to have that position being so versatile in the defense. So that'll do it today for the BWI Daily Edition. Again, a lot of stuff over at the site, bluewhiteillustrated.com. Sign up for just $1. Get 12 months of access. And if you want to be kept in the know, the recruiting show coming up tomorrow, that's going to dive deeper into some of the things we touched on at the beginning of the daily today. Subscribe here to YouTube if you're watching here on YouTube, checking out the highlight videos. And if you're listening on the podcast, I love you. Make sure you subscribe and you download the podcast so you don't miss a BWI Daily. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. All kinds of stuff coming up this week, including coming up on Wednesday, a discussion about receivers and how what you think the prototype receiver is might be changing. We'll talk to you then.